Good afternoon, podcast listeners. This is Ed Franklin with the No Limits podcast. I told you I'd be back this week, and I am, and we're going to lighten things up a little bit more today. Although we're going to talk about some of the things I always talk about because you need to have them pounded in your head, and so do I, apparently. Last week, all dark background, dark hat, dark shirt. I don't know. I didn't do that by design. It just kind of came out that way. But so thought I'd lighten it up today, and background's a little bit different, different shirt, different hat, all those things. Thank you for joining me today. I always start with telling you that I can be contacted at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. I'm always looking for guests with good stories, looking for guests that are in that motivational realm, sales realm, things like that. And I was like talking about that stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit about sales today, but really kind of how it pertains to your life. And what I've been going through as I'm looking for work, and kind of how a lot of times I think these companies don't really know what they're looking for, and I'm not sure that we all know what we're looking for on a regular basis because I don't think we get clear enough on a vision. Again, edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. You can follow me on YouTube, which is awesome. And please, 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 if you get anything out of this podcast, one little snippet, please share it. Even if you don't listen to the podcast, which is shame on you, you should be listening, and you wouldn't have heard that unless I told you. Please share my podcast to your Facebook friends, Instagram, TikTok, wherever you can share my podcast. I'd appreciate. I'm trying to grow this podcast, and the way I'm going to do it is by you helping me share it with your friends and that. And like I said, I'm always looking for guests with good stories and that want to talk about positive things, not necessarily negative. Now, it could be a negative thing that turned into a positive. That's fine with me. I think that that's what we should be trying to do with that trauma I talk about all the time. But at the beginning of my podcast on the my intro, there's a tunnel, and you've heard the saying light at the end of the tunnel, and I think there's always light at the end of the tunnel. If you have hope, I don't think you should ever lose hope. I think there's ways to get over it. I think sometimes things feel hopeless, and I think we create that in our mind a lot of the times. I do it myself, and I get so worked up and stressed out that I do start to lose hope, and then something happens and I can regain that hope. Listen, I don't care if you're the poorest person in the world, the richest person in the world. You have times in your life where you're just feeling a little bit down, and maybe, a little pity party or whatever. I just got off the phone for about an hour with one of my good friends who's been on my podcast before. And we had a very nice conversation about kind of rebooting and kind of getting back out there, getting re-engaged really with life. After COVID, prior to COVID, I was with people constantly in networking meetings and, all over San Diego, constantly talking to people. And I don't get as much opportunity to do that as I was, because I think after COVID, people thought, well, you know what, I got along fine without meeting anybody or talking to anybody. So they've just kind of taken that tack that that's the way it's going to be. Don't do that. Get out there and see people. It'll help grow your business. It'll help grow other people's businesses. And in the midst of one of the worst political storms we've ever had in our history, we need each other. And I think I'm really disappointed right now in some of the people in my circle that have not showed up to help me or give me any words of encouragement or things like that. They just I think they just feel like to just let me figure it out and don't help me. Well, that's not what I need. I need help right now. I need to meet people. I need to get interviews. I need to get all those things. I need to get back in the workforce. My last job ended abruptly, and not my fault. And I don't, I know it's never my fault, but this was really not. This was a guy that just misconstrued the whole, everything. But I don't want to get into that because I fucking talked about that last time. Um, you know, as I'm looking through these jobs, it's funny, you'll go on Indeed or Monster, or God, there's so many, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, all these things, and it's funny, the sales ads all kind of look the same, which leads me to believe that they really don't know what they need. They either some AI person is writing that, or person, it's not a person. Either somebody that's giving up to AI to write these things, artificial intelligence, by the way, and they're writing these kind of cookie cutter ads, and they all look the same. There's never anything encouraging about them. It's, you got to do this and this and this and this, and you got to raise revenue by this much. And without even seeing a job, how are you supposed to know? First of all, it's even possible. And second of all, of how you're going to go down that path. Now, there's obviously fundamentally sound practices in sales, in accounting, in management, in anything. And there are some, like I said, elementary things, some foundational things you need to be good at before you can perform that job. But it's always funny when other companies I've went to work for, they really have no clue what they're looking for. And once they do have that person in place, they're really not there to help that person. They feel like, well, you already know how to sell. Here's the product, go sell it. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. And you need to bring a person along. Most companies I've ever worked for, and this could be the case in your situation, they do not help their people succeed, right? They'll give them instruction. They'll give them kind of a cookie cutter thing of what you're supposed to do. But there's no helping them along. And I know companies are busy and things like that. But if you really want to have an exceptional employee, if you really want to have some that's a person of possibility, you need to bring these people along. You need to help them kind of understand the business, understand how it works, and understand that there's other ways to skin a cat. And salespeople should be looking for that other way all the time. How am I going to get to the key people and this and that? A lot of times the key people do not show up to, networking events and things like that. So there's got to be another way in. And one of the ways in is to ask people and let people know what you do. If you're trying to grow a sales organization, you need to tell everybody that you know what you do, and you never know who they know. I know some people in the world that I should not even know, right? I just met them through whatever. And there's always opportunities out there to reach out to those people. And when you do networking, it's probably about 10 people deep. Now, how does that apply to your life? So do you know what you want to do? Do you want to stay in the job you're in? Are you happy at that job you're in right now? And you're moving along and it's got a good culture and they pay you well and you get time off and all that's great. Kit's in an organization like that. Kit loves her job, loves the people she works with, gets plenty of time off, all kinds of benefits she gets, and she's very happy with the organization she works for. Now, I hear her on the phone with her in her meetings, and it's very light. It's very upbeat. When they do have a problem, they address the problem, they get it taken care of, and they move on to the next thing. But they never end without light. They never end without laughing. They never end without not necessarily a joke, but they never, and they all know each other's family dynamic, like how they work together. So these are actually friends that get to work together. And it's an unusual place to be in because most people don't have that dynamic within their organization. But you think about it and you think about these descriptions they put out for jobs. And I give you an exercise. You should put out that description for you, what you want. Write it down. I've told you this a million times. The yellow pad of paper is key in your life, and you can write those things down and kind of things that you want. Now, if you do this litmus test and you have written down 35 things that you want in a job and your employer does 2, I don't know, maybe it's time to look for something else. I don't know. The problem is if you don't look for something else and you're in that situation, now you've taken these notes, you're going to keep going back to those things and you're not going to get what you want. Anytime I started an organization, same when I did this garage door company, I said, there's 3 things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about expectations, communication, so we communicate those expectations to each other, and discipline. Your life's no different. You need to have expectations, right? For yourself, for the people around you, your kids, your spouse, your whoever. And these don't have to be troubling expectations. They can be very simple. You need to communicate those things, and then you need to have discipline. The discipline is making sure they get done. If you're out there and you're not in the shape you want to be in and you want to get exercise, and these are things you can do on your own. And it doesn't have to be going to 5 o'clock in the morning to the gym. It can be going for a walk. It can be doing that. But I don't know if you get how much endorphins you get in your brain from going out and getting a little exercise, maybe a 30-minute walk. These are things that make you happy. These are endorphins that make you give you a better attitude about things. And I encourage you to do some kind of exercise. And like I said, I'm not going to go down the typical road I do. Seems like every time, because I want to encourage you and I want you to understand that you need to encourage yourself. You need to speak this good talk to yourself and make sure that you're putting that work in. And I'm telling you, a yellow pad of paper like I have right here with all the time I have it is a gold mine. It's just taking those notes. It's just sitting down, maybe when you're not doing anything, maybe turn off the TV for 30 minutes and just write down things you want out of life and see what you can get. I know that there's a lot of you out there that don't know what to do. Like, what would I do different than what I'm doing now? Well, keep asking yourself. Keep asking yourself, what if, what if, what if? I said this last time. Physiologically, your brain will answer you, what if? If you had more money, if you had a better relationship, if you had all these things, you got to keep putting that in your mind. Education, keep reading. I don't care if you're reading a fiction, nonfiction, if you're watching, documentaries, if you're learning something, super important to keep your mind going. It's just as important as exercise. And I had a meme that I was gonna find today, but I'll do it later, do it at another podcast. So like I said, life is very similar to these sales skills. You're kind of following, what's going on right now. When you're watching this political stuff happening, they're kind of telling you what to do, right? They're encouraging you, they're marketing, they're doing all these things. And you really got to kind of think on your own and figure out what you want and what you can do to be an activist or some kind of help your own world. I don't care. Fix your own world first and then work on other people's, like your kids. I know this podcast is just seeming like shit I just repeat all the time. And again, I'll tell you, it's because I want to drive it into your mind. I know you guys are dealing with stuff. I'm absolutely positive you are. And you've got to deal with who you are as a person and what you can do to help you get healthy. Put those things behind you so you can operate at a high level, just like I've said a million times. It's funny. I know a lot of you are hard workers. I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast, and you're the type of people that if I was your boss and I asked you to work a Saturday morning or something or some overtime at night, most of you wouldn't even hesitate. You say, sure, I can help out. I want to get the job done too, make it easier for tomorrow. But do you do that in your own life? Do you ever just say to yourself, I really need to do this? Maybe it's exercise, maybe it's cooking with different ingredients, maybe it's doing, are you doing that? Are you putting in the extra time for yourself? If you work 8 hours a day, you sleep 8 hours a day, you have 8 hours of your life to do something else with for yourself. If your job's taking up so much of your mind and time that it's killing part of that 8 hours, I don't know, man. Maybe you need to look for something else. There's a lot of opportunities going on right now. And if you're my age or close to it, you need to learn about AI. It's not going to go away. You need to learn about some more, technical things out there. Pick up a book, go get a book, get Audible, listen to a book. I am, when I drive, just about every time I drive somewhere, if I'm by myself, if I drop Carson off and I'm driving back by myself, I listen to a book. And I'm listening to a very good leadership book right now that, funny enough, had a little snippet yesterday about sales. And it's funny, it was the shortest chapter in the book, and I was just amazed that would be the shortest chapter in the book. Since I've gone out on this limb and I posted today that I want to do speaking, and I posted a kind of an ad on LinkedIn and Facebook, and I'll do it on Instagram too, and all those places. And I'm putting it out there that I want to do public speaking. I want to talk about these things. I want to talk about people's trauma. I want to help sales organizations focus on sales and how to get more sales, because it's not that I'm such a great salesman that I could teach them how to sell better. It's really about their day-to-day tasks that are holding them up from getting things done. It's about the company not staying fundamentally sound and costing profit from those sales that people are making. Your life's exactly the same. What is costing you during the day? What's taking time away from you that's not letting you lead your best life? I'll tell you one thing is TV. I don't watch much TV at all, very little actually. There's just not a lot of good information on television. It's funny, the top 10 podcasts in the world, and this was something I looked at a while back. Joe Rogan, of course, is one of them. He gets the guests, right? He gets the best guests, and that's what I need. I need some really good guests that I can use their network to grow my podcast. But the other top 10 podcasts are either listening about people's problems or crime stuff, crime, not reality crime. This is fictional crime. This is nuts. I don't understand why people would be so interested in that. Although I have to tell you, we used to watch those crime shows and they're fascinating. Some of these reality ones where they go out and they're like 30 minutes long and they find, they're trying to find out who killed who or whatever. It's crazy that we do that because it's kind of sick in a way, but, and listen, I could make a podcast about all my problems and I could tell you guys some fucking stories that would blow your mind that have happened in my life. But in the best interest of the people that are involved in the story, I don't tell them because I don't want to embarrass that person. Whether I like the person or not, I'm not going to embarrass them on publicly like that. I think it's shitty. And I don't know, maybe one of these days I'll have a podcast like that where I talk to you about things that happened to me and call out some of those people. It's not really what I want to do because it's just so much negative stuff. But because of those experiences, I have learned a lot of things in my life, and it's a little bit nuts. I wrote a note down here, speaker ads. So I go on to Facebook, and since I've talked about speaking and looked at ads and things like that on the internet, my algorithms bring up these speaking companies, and it's generally the same person that has about 10 different speaking companies, and they just call it something else. So what they do is they promise to get you speaking gigs in corporate America and all over. I mean, wherever they decide they're going to get you speaking gigs. And I looked into it one time, and what it is they charge you about $10,000 to $15,000 to get you these leads, and they probably get you gigs, but then they take a pretty good chunk of those things too. They take a commission off of those gigs too, and they also want you to they start teaching you how to speak. Now, the problem with that is I don't want to learn how to speak by someone else. There's an organization out there called Toastmasters, and basically what Toastmasters is teaching people how to get up in front of crowds and talk to people. And I can almost inevitably tell you that when I see a speaker that has gone to, what did I just call it? When I see a person that's gone to that Toastmasters, I know immediately that they went to Toastmasters because there's robotic things that they do that they teach you. And it wouldn't be me if I was doing this robotic speaking or using certain language or certain words or certain, aspects and dressed differently. It wouldn't be me. And that's just not going to happen. If I never speak to an organization in my life because I'd have to do it that way, then so be it. I'm not going to change. I want to give people an authentic, organic speech from things that I've learned in my life. It's all true stuff. It can help anybody from the poorest person to the richest person. And, because I don't think most people deal with it. And if they do, God bless them. That's awesome. I'm glad they've gotten that organized in life that they can listen and take care of those things on their own. I think most people just try to bury trauma. They try to forget about it. They try to do 100 other things. And like I said, inevitably it's going to come back again, whether it's a different type or a different person or a different situation. You're always going to have to deal with it. Everybody in the world's got to deal with it. And it's subjective, right? So I mentioned this in my last podcast. You could lose a dog, for instance, and just have this horrific pain, especially for a child that just doesn't even know how to deal with this. And, everywhere they go, they reminds them of their dog and things like that, versus somebody who lost a spouse, for instance. And you'd say, well, that's worse than losing a dog. Well, not to that child. It's not. That child doesn't have anything to compare it to. And hopefully they never get to, but they're going to. So it's all subjective. It's all different things. You can't say that, well, my trauma was worse than yours. You can't say that. It's subjective. They deal with it the way they deal with it. And it could be a worse thing than, it could be worse than losing a spouse if that child is all they have to reflect on is that poor puppy that they lost. So I guess that kind of brings me around to just making sure that you understand that just about everybody you deal with, especially in a customer service situation, that person's dealing with some trauma. We had a guy in the, sorry, I had my ear itches. We had a person that I was doing business with, we were having a problem with his garage door, and come to find out his wife, it was very hard to get a hold of him to get him pegged down so we can go fix his garage door. Turns out his wife is ill. She has cancer and she's going in for treatments, and they were going to see a doctor all the time. And at first I started getting frustrated. I said, man, when's this done? We got to get this thing fixed for him. But, considering his situation, we just had to adapt and do the best we could for this gentleman. And make it as easy for him as possible. He didn't want either one of these problems, either with his garage door or his wife, but this is what life throws at us sometimes. So what do you guys want to do? What do you want, what topics do you want to hear? I know I put a thing out on Facebook a while back about what topics people wanted to hear. And, what are the questions? One of my friends answered, John Riley, my political buddy, said, talk about politics. I said, no, I'm not going to talk about politics. Some other ones with 10 best business stories you could tell. I have a couple interesting ones of those, and I'll tell those another day. We'll do a podcast about that because I think it's pretty important. Well, it's not important. It's fun though, because I've had some shit happen at companies that just blew me away. I was telling somebody a story the other day, and it was unbelievable. And sure enough, about 30 years later, I run into the same guy that was involved in the story. And like I said, I'll tell it another time. But, I know all of you have something you want to do different in life, or in addition to what you're doing now. And I'm discouraged that you're not taking action on that. And I think a lot of people don't. I think we kind of have these classes of people in the world where we have this lower income class, middle class, and upper class. And we just kind of fall into those places, and we're just like, well, that's just all there is for me in life. That's not all there is for you in life. I got news for you. This picture I'm looking at that's behind the video I'm watching, or that I'm making, is this, it looks like a desert with this body of water right in the middle of it. And it's just gorgeous. And I've never been anywhere like this, but this would be insane to be at. That could be snow. I don't even know if it's desert or snow, but it's just beautiful water. Is there anywhere you want to go? Is there anything you want to do out there that you haven't done? It can be done. You can do it. You just have to focus on it enough. Don't get so bogged down with the day-to-day bullshit. Get out there in life and breathe a little bit, and encourage yourself to get out there and do a little bit more, and kind of sit down, like I said, and write it down. Write down what you want to do. I'll talk to people all the time. They said, well, I can't do that. That's impossible. When I was a kid, we weren't even allowed to say I can't do something. My mom would come unhinged if we said, I can't do that, or I can't do that. And it didn't matter which kid it was. If you said that in the house, my mom would come unglued and tell you, look, you can do anything you want. And I've told this story before. When I was a little kid, we were just flat ass broke shit, nothing, man. We barely had a place to live. And but everybody succeeded. They did good in life, and I'm not sure they're all living their best life right now, but that's just time. I am not living my best life right now, but I will not put up with it. I talked to a person today that says, I talked to a headhunter last week, and he says, well, how much are you looking to make? And I told him the number, and he says, they just don't pay that much in that industry. I said, well, then I don't want to be in that industry. And he's like, really? Don't you just need a job? I said, I do, but if I go to work for somebody and I'm making shit money, all I'm going to do is look for a job the whole time. And that's not fair to the company. That's not fair to anybody. I know what needs to be done in organizations, and 99% of the organizations I've ever worked for, if they'd applied what good sales coaching and applied the things that I've learned in life, they would increase their sales. I'm guaranteeing you. Now, same to said about life. If you just take some of those fundamentals in your life, exercise, education, those things I keep talking about, your life will improve. Are you willing to do it? Do you want it bad enough? I had the whole title of this podcast today was getting re-engaged. If you've stopped working for those goals, if you've stopped looking for that job, if you've stopped, looking for that relationship, if you've stopped all these things, they're not going to come back. You've got to do something. I sent out an email today to, 30 people about speaking today. I'm going to probably guess I'm not even going to get one response, but it doesn't matter. I'll send another 30 out tomorrow, or 30 out tonight. I'll put it on more platforms. I'll do whatever I have to do. Somebody somewhere is looking for me to do something for them. And that could be the speaking. Or it could be a new job. It could be somebody that says, no, I like this guy's attitude. This is the kind of person we need at our company. This is that getting re-engaged and getting out there. Now, I can't go out and network every 5 minutes, especially when I don't belong to a company and the networking groups have gotten smaller, but I can use my podcast as networking and get that out there. Now, an employer could look at this podcast and go, oh, this guy's a dick. Or they could go, whoa, this is a kind of the guy we want. This is a guy we want that'll come in and help the younger people accelerate what they're doing right now. And he knows enough. He's been doing this long enough. That's what I'm looking for. So if you know of anybody that could benefit from my skills, and I don't think I have to tell you what my skills are, let them know. Let them know to listen to the podcast. Give them my information. It's fine with me. Have them find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. And we can just start a conversation. It doesn't have to work out, but at least if we have a conversation going, it's better than doing nothing. And that's why I keep encouraging you to do something. Read a book, exercise. I'm going to pound it into your freaking heads until you get out there and take a little bit of action in your life. You are responsible for where you're going to be in 2 years. And again, it's not going to take a week. I've been to these companies before where I was with a company for 55 days and they said we weren't making enough headway. I said, 55 days. That was a total, that included weekends. I said, this takes a year. And we talked about this when I came to work here, how long this is going to take, 6 months, a year, maybe. And I was starting to get traction in that less than 60 days, but they couldn't. And I showed them where I was getting traction and they just didn't see. And now they've been looking to replace me for the last 3 years because I see their ads come up all the time. Every time it goes off, it comes back up because I know what's happening. They're getting a person in there and they're getting rid of them. We're in this society right now where everything has to be delivered tomorrow. It's Amazon society, right? We get something. I ordered something the other day. I got it that day. I ordered it in the morning and got it that afternoon. It was pre-workout to work out with. And I was surprised. I said, look, same day delivery was $2.99, I think. I said, shit, that's worth it. I need it today because I'm out. And we're in this society. We're in this society where people are checking their investments every 30 days or 15 days. When back in the day, they used to check them every year or 6 months, minimal. That would be the least they would check. And now they're checking them every hour sometimes. Listen, the difference between, I'm a baby boomer, just missed being what do you call it? What's the one after baby boomer? Whatever it is. It's not a millennial. It's a Gen X, right before being a Gen X. We had a whole different way of doing things back in the day. Much more patient, much more hard work, put your nose to the grindstone kind of thing. And we saw that goal, but it was way out there. We had to do a lot of work to get to that goal. Everybody now wants it tomorrow, right? They want to get out of college, and I have something to talk about that too. They want to get out of college, make 200 grand a year with, 40 days PTO and all this stuff. Are there companies that do that? I don't know. If you know of them, let me get that job. So it was something I skipped over here and I didn't want to do that. I was looking as I go through this job hunt and I'm looking at descriptions of jobs and sales and management, operations and all these things. 95% of these jobs require a bachelor's degree. And it's funny because even on the city jobs, the higher end city jobs, they require a bachelor's degree too, which kind of it's kind of discriminatory to do that, right? Especially for people that are older college was not the path when I was coming out of high school. Some kids went to college, most did not. Some kids went back. I went back for a short time. I got short of my 2-year degree. I'm not going back to college. It was in criminal law. And it's funny that they don't ask what the degree is in. They just want to know. And I wish somebody could explain to me why all these companies require a bachelor's degree, especially at my level. Now, there could have something to do with discipline. I don't know what it has to do with, but I love somebody to explain that to me. Let me tell you something. You cannot teach in school in a master's program what I've learned in business by working in business, right? It's kind of like my education is hands-on, right? I've done it wrong. I've managed people incorrectly. I've sold wrong. I've lost jobs. I've done all these things. I get it. I've learned more than anybody in college can learn about business, being in business. I guarantee you, And I've educated myself. I read a lot. I do all these other things. The same thing I would do in college. I just didn't have a teacher that said, yes, he did read, he did do all that homework and got this grade or whatever. But it's the funniest thing with the bachelor's degree. It is nowhere. And they don't even know what the degree's in. You could get a degree in underwater basket weaving, and I would have enough. And if I had that degree, I could get jobs that I know I'm getting knocked out because AI is looking at these jobs. They're looking at my resume. Nobody reads a resume anymore. They put it through a machine and it looks for keywords, right? And if it doesn't have a degree on there or any education, it just gets kicked out. I lost a job, or I not lost a job. I got turned down for a job the other day that I was doing when I was 25. I mean, I could do this job with my eyes closed. I kind of applied for it as a joke because I wanted to see if I get it. And sure enough, like a day later, booted me right out of the system. So I can't believe a company would want to hire somebody that they didn't talk to. Now, they do interviews. They do get to a point. I interviewed with somebody last year, and no offense to the person, but she was very young. You could tell she was reading questions off of a list, right? So she wasn't really engaged in the conversation. She was just kind of reading these cookie cutter notes and questions. And we talked very briefly because she was sticking to these notes, and I got booted. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to go to the next interview. It's ridiculous. I knew exactly what the job was. I was very good at it. I've done it before. And I could easily do it. So another funny thing about looking for these jobs, just so you know, if you're ever out there looking for jobs, is you'll see them come up the same job like every 3 months. And it's my guess that they're hiring people and they don't work out. And they're hiring people and they don't work out. I've seen statistics that say that it costs about $1 million to hire the wrong salesperson over a couple of years. And these guys hire no offense, they hire these younger people, these kids, to try to find a seasoned veteran, and they can't even talk to the seasoned veteran because he's a seasoned veteran or she's a seasoned veteran. And they can't even talk on the same level. Sales is the hardest, easiest job I've ever done. There's a lot of hard bits to it, but really it's communicating. And if you're a good communicator, you're a good salesperson. If you're a patient communicator, you're even a better salesperson. And if you're a helpful communicator that's patient, you're a great salesperson. But you have to give the company has to give the same importance to the salesperson. You have to be patient, you got to communicate, you got to be, nice and help those people along. I'll get off my high horse with the sales crap. But yeah, I lose more jobs over stuff that doesn't make any sense. Not lose jobs that didn't happen. But I get booted out of the system before they even get to know me. And if I had a chance to sit down and talk with them 90% of the time, I bet I could get the job. And it's not because I'm so persuasive, but they would see that I can communicate. I've done this before. I know how to get, through situations, and I know how to solve problems and all that good stuff. So I guess this is probably a pretty boring podcast, really. I'm still out there trying to encourage you. I will come up with a better topic next week to run through with you. But in the meantime, take my advice, educate yourself, get out, get some exercise, and take some time to yourself, meditate, exercise, whatever you're doing when you're, doing that. Like I said, you don't have to get up at 3:45 in the morning, but I swear by it now, and that I'm doing it every morning, at least 4 or 5 times a week. I'm getting up and going to the gym, and it's my time to kind of chill and just meditate or whatever I'm doing. So I'm generally lifting weights, but I don't talk to anybody at the gym. So anyway, next week I'll have like a little deeper topic we can get along, or if you have some suggestions, you can email me at edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. That's edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. Hit me up if you got a topic you want to hear about. If you have a guest, I'm really needing guests. I need some guests that can tell some really interesting stories or discuss motivation or discuss, self-help or anything that they can help with that's going to help you along, I want to talk to them. So if you know somebody, tell them, look, you got to get on this thing, and please share my podcast. Even if you think this one sucked, share it anyway. Let people make up their mind. I did break up last week's podcast into 5-minute increments, and it helped a lot. I think I got a lot more listeners because people were able to just get a sample. And I'm going to do that with this podcast too. But anyway, listen, I really appreciate you guys. I know it's the middle of summer. A lot of people are on vacation. A lot of people are out there not engaged right now. Well, get re-engaged. Hopefully you're having some fun this summer, but you're also focused on the future because it's going to be here sooner than you think. I mean, for Christ's sake, we're almost into August already, almost 7 months down. So edfranklin.nolimits@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Share this podcast when you get a chance. And I hope you have a great week. And I will see you again next week.